Before we get into our Superman Season 2, Episode 8 review, I do want to just throw in a quick cheap plug before we lose those of you who perhaps don't watch the show and don't really want to hear us wax philosophical about Superman and Lois. Though, really, if that's you, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should be watching Superman and Lois. But just in case that's not your thing, I have to mention that last week I finally did it. I finally launched the spinoff to this show. It is called The Wrestling Fanboy, and you could find it on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. There is no video version like this show. It's just a strictly audio podcast. And if you haven't found out about it yet through my tweets, go look it up now. And you've got 2 episodes to check out already. Last week, for those of you who are wrestling fans, I began by remembering the late, great Scott Hall, who passed away earlier in the week. And I spoke a little bit about the Cody Rhodes debacle with his departure from AEW and his seemingly impending debut on WWE programming soon, which I have a lot of feelings about. So if you're into that sort of thing, The Wrestling Fanboy is officially up and running. 2 episodes thick now. It's going to be going up every Thursday, and hope you like it.
Thick.
2 episodes. I don't know.
Is that another old time?
Let's just say it is. Yes, that's what it is. It's 2 episodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the thickest episode of wrestling. We're gonna DDT you through the thickest table imaginable.
All right. Speaking of things that are thick. Season 2, Episode 8, Superman and Lois aired this past Tuesday after another brief hiatus, and we've got some thoughts. So, Brett, I'll let you get us started. Did the winning streak continue for you? Is Superman and Lois still crushing it? How did you feel about the latest developments?
It was another solid episode. I don't really think there's been like a bad episode. This one was like maybe and kind of there was a lot of development on the villain side in this episode, but I felt like and a little more spectacle than usual, and I felt like maybe I should have been a little more into it, but it it was a little flatter for me this week. I'm just not. I wish they have given a little more behind like insight into what exactly this Alley woman is doing and the weird portal and the invert. I still don't get what's happening and fighting with people. I don't with through the I don't know with the little charm. What is it called? The pendant, whatever.
Yeah, the pendant.
So there was that, but I actually did really like the stuff with Jonathan and Jordan this episode.
Yes.
Kind of saved it for me. We really actually got to see Jordan like for the first time really start to like manage and use his powers.
He made his first save.
Yeah, he did a big save this episode. Put the hood down and concealed his identity a little bit, and we got to. Is this the first time we saw him use the super speed? I don't think we've seen him death anywhere, maybe except when he was possessed by evil.
Yeah, I guess I kind of count that because technically we've seen Jordan be all different kinds of super. But yeah, you're right. Like him doing the Flash.
He did it by not being possessed by evil Jor-El.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it was like of his own accord, doing it. And I really do. I think both actors on the show, the brothers, like I really love their relationship. It's actually pretty nuanced, and also I think Jordan, the actor who plays him, has improved from season 1. I think his acting's got a lot better. I think the guy who plays Jonathan has been pretty solid actually throughout. But that actually saved the episode for me. I thought that stuff was really interesting. Some of the and there was like a big little twist kind of at the end, which was kind of interesting. But sometimes like when they get too bogged down in like all the military drama, that stuff sometimes like pulls me out. Like I think I am more interested in like all the family drama, which I know some people feel like CW.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I think that's kind of the more intriguing part because that's the more challenging thing for Clark and Superman. So
yeah.
What do you think? Yeah, tell me here.
Yeah, for me, I continue to be very impressed by the scope of the show in terms of they show some they have some pretty complicated character arcs. Some really interesting shades of gray surround our big blue Boy Scout. And I really appreciate that because it's a show that is more about compassion and understanding than casting judgment. And one of the areas where I see that is in the Kyle Cushing storyline, where we
Poor
find out that Kyle had cheated on Lana. And rather than play this like he's a straight up asshole and villain now for doing that, they seem to be having Kyle on a bit of a redemption arc. And they're seeming to try to show that, like, listen, stuff happens sometimes and things get messy, but it's about how you deal with it. And kind of like how Lana said in her pseudo stump speech when she's talking about how life throws you curveballs sometimes, but it's all about dealing with them with honesty and dignity. And I find that it really speaks to me because if we're going to get personal here, like in my life, I've had to deal with men around me doing things that are a little corrupt and a little not great. And I myself have been in Kyle's position of being the husband who's kind of on the outside looking in, who has to face up to his mistakes and hope that she lets him back in. And the fact that they're so soberly and maturely handling the Kyle storyline, I actually want to give a I want to call out Nico Caruso from the Vigilante 1939 podcast. I love Nico. I love his father. I love Nick Zednick. And Nico tweeted something about, like, almost sort of dismissive about that storyline. Like, hey, remember when they spent all of season one showing us that Kyle was a good, a good husband and a good person, just to undo it in season two and make him a bad guy for the sake of drama? I'm like, to me, that undercuts it entirely, because I don't think what he did automatically makes him a bad person. All right. I think there's more to the story, and it seems like Lana seems to be willing to hear him out, and his daughter seems to be willing to hear him out. And I think a show that preaches a message of forgiveness and understanding and the belief that people can be better and that we can't judge people for their for how they behaved in their darkest moments. We judge them for how they pull themselves out of that. And to me, Superman and Lois, like the fact that like that's part of the show's like moral compass, makes me really love these writers and really trust where they're taking these characters. And even all throughout too, with Jordan's storyline, where yes, he started trying the yellow K, no, Jonathan, where he started like doing like the drugs, so to speak. But it's not so cut and dry that you did drugs, so you're automatically a dirty, filthy junkie. Like in the old days, that was like a trope. Like that would have been played much differently. Nowadays, we're treating it like he had, he screwed up. He felt these outside pressures. There was something that happened and he did it and he regrets it. But, like to me, the fact that the show has that level of heart and care and concern and surrounds Superman with all of these sort of moral quandaries while he himself doesn't have any. He always knows the right thing to do. Clark is that idealistic big blue Boy Scout still, but like any good Superman story, they've surrounded him with people who are dealing with their own crazy, murky shades of gray. And that continues to impress the hell out of me on the show. And as a side to that too, like I also just love the cult angle, because this is more like a personal thing, because like I love, like, first of all, I love in the Batman that we're dealing with a serial killer, with a Riddler who's like Zodiac, because I've always been into serial killers and true crime. In Superman and Lois, we're dealing with this cult thing, and there's interesting parallels, because in there have been many cults who preach this message of, on the other side is the happiness, on the other side is where you'll find your true self and reach your full potential, and you'll be a golden god. You just have to drink this Kool-Aid, and when you get to the other side, you'll experience it. And you have all these poor souls who've believed these charismatic snake oil salesmen, and then they die, and nothing comes of it, right? But in this instance, this lady is doing exactly what real life cult leaders do. She's convinced these people that if you follow me, I'm going to lead you to some mythical promised land. And I just love that somehow they've made that into a Superman villain story.
Sure.
It's an interesting angle. I haven't really seen anything done quite like this before. And I'm with you. I want to find out more. It is still a little too vague and hazy.
Yeah.
What
I mean, I
is
always
this
forget this is a
inverted world?
20, these are like what, 22 episode seasons too. So
Yeah.
I guess, like, I'm used to like lately been watching a lot of like some of the more like, prestige television
Yes.
shows, and they're doing more like, 8 to 13
Yeah.
episodes.
Well,
So,
actually, this is going to be 15. This is going to be 15. So we've still
oh,
got,
that makes
yeah.
me
But
happy. But yeah, but like, yeah,
we
that's
still
good.
have
But yeah,
plenty of
usually I
room here.
expect something to be revealed by now, but I'm like, oh, they still
Yeah.
have a little way to go. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
just like I just need a little bit more to get me into that part of it. But
Mm-hmm.
just to go back, because I remember, I think it was like last week or the week before, I was talking about, like, I was like, poor Kyle, man. Like, they gave him, like, he was kind of like the dickhead in the first season.
Yeah.
And then this season they were like, let's just make him a dickhead again. And I always hate when, like, I'm like, you couldn't find like another thing to do. But I'm really glad the turn it took this week. I'm glad it went really melodrama with it, and I really felt like that's where it was going. And I was gonna be like, but like what they did this week was great, and even with the kid, with his daughter, with Sarah, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad they kind of have a little bit of reconciliation, because they really could have went crazy melodrama with that, and really melodrama with I can't always want to call her Sloane because she's slow. She'll always be Sloane from Entourage for me.
Wow.
But Lana,
That's funny.
so yeah, I call her Sloane all the time. It's so bad. So I'm happy that they did that. Yeah, that was a cool little twist this week.
Yep. Yep.
There
was one other little thing too from Jordan's first save from that scene. Jonathan has a line I find interesting, and I wonder if it's foreshadowing what this dynamic is going to be like, or potentially a danger on the horizon for these guys keeping their secret. Because Jordan, after Jonathan teaches the guy who's attacking Candace a lesson, and he has him pinned against the car, Jordan says, like, basically, never speak to Candace again, or I'll send him after you. So here's Jordan kind of like, I'm like, this is an interesting relationship now with his brother, where like he feels like his brother is someone he could sick on people, and like,
out now, like,
what happened?
He's gonna be like pimping him out now, like, go get him. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Because like, there's lots of different ways that dynamic could have played out. It could have been jealousy earlier on in this season. It was like competitiveness. He was taking the yellow cake because he wanted to be special too. But in this case now, it's like he's settled into the fact that I'm not superhuman, but I've got a superhuman brother, and I will send him to kick your ass if you mess with me. I just think that was interesting that he said, I'll send him after you. And I just wonder, like, how would Clark feel about that? I don't know if that's a great thing to be threatening people with.
Yeah.
As we're trying to keep a low profile, don't threaten people that you're going to send your superpowered brother after them. Right. But either way, I found that interesting. And my last note, which is just about how good innately Superman is, because Clark could absolutely find out where Jonathan got this stuff. He could absolutely eavesdrop with his super hearing and find out what the real, why he's protecting someone and what the truth of all this is. But he doesn't, because he's Superman. Because he's waiting for Jonathan to come and actually communicate and speak with him about what's going on here. And until then, you're going to get stern dad things from me, but he's not going to break the trust, because even late in that same scene towards the end of the movie, after Jonathan comes home and Clark basically sends him to his room for being late from work, for walking Candace home. He goes right upstairs and starts talking to Jordan about Candace. And I'm like, Clark's downstairs. He could totally, if he wanted to know what was going on here, he absolutely could find out. Or he could just watch from the sky and watch Jonathan's every move. But that wouldn't be the Superman-like thing to do.
And that's like his burden. He can do that. And, potentially maybe keep his family safer or protect them better. But he that's the contract he has with humanity, with his family, is that like
Yeah.
he needs to be respectful and use the powers for what they need to be used for, and not
Hmm.
to like
And he
undermine.
seems to have faith that Jonathan will eventually speak to his better angels, come to his senses, and just reveal it. So he's not going to snoop around and do any of that. He's going to let it, happen naturally.
And
So
Lois even telling him to lighten up a little bit. You can't
yeah,
keep
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like it's not the worst thing that he walked his girlfriend home.
yeah.
So yeah,
Seriously. So
the dynamic in the family is just really, it's the strongest part of the show,
yeah,
and it's probably the most interesting.
it is, and it's funny to think because it was the one that had the most potential to be cringy and stereotypical,
Yeah,
and instead it's arguably the most compelling part of the series. So, yep, for me, Superman and Lois continues the winning streak. Um, I can't wait to find out what happens next. I want to find out more about Allie, but all in all, knowing that they've got season 3 coming now too, the quality of the storytelling and the care and thought and nuances that goes into these characters and the overall Superman sensibility that the show seems to exude, I'm just over the moon, man. So, all right.